Perfect. 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 Perfect.
Yeah. Well, all right. Like you always say, welcome, welcome, welcome. Number one sports talking D. We ain't like the Falcons, we won't blow the lead. Look, all we talk is who that, who got cut and who back. Rookies and the vets, players you should look at. It's the sports coma, you don't wanna miss it. Got the pre-game party, post-game statistics. Get a visit from Sway, maybe DC or 5. It's the hottest thing smoking, Big Q and the guys. Go to YouTube Live, make sure you subscribe. Interviews inside the Saints locker room high. Talk to Drew, Jordan, Zach, Peyton, New Orleans, who that nation. Best believe when I say we bleed gold and black. Ain't a miracle or rivalry could ever hold us back. No, Beastquake, Bounty Gate, let the truth be told. It's the sports coma, all we know is Saints Super Bowl. Yeah.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Who that fam? What's going on, fam? How y'all doing, man? Welcome to another edition of the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, man. I'd like to say what's happening to all the beautiful black and gold family members in the building. Big ups to the family in the building. I'd like to holler at all the beautiful family members in the building. Big ups to the family members in the building. First in the building, I see you, Tara. Tara, first in the building. Who that to you, baby? Big ups to you. Kevin, who that to your family? Big ups to you as well. Some of the family members joining in. Sports Coma, middle of the week show. Just hitting you guys with it, just basically coming at you. Now, of course, we're supposed to do this Wednesday, but of course, we had some issues, bad weather, and a lot of stuff happened, but we just had to shift it to Thursday. Pretty much letting the family members know, of course, this is the middle of the week Sports Coma edition. And man, regardless or not, we're going to bring it to you. So big ups to all the family members in the building. This is a Sports Coma live stream number 87, show 400 and I'm going to have to get y'all the totals, but I know it's in the 490s. I promise by the weekend when we do our flagship show on Saturday at 12 o'clock. We always Saturdays at 12. If those who don't know, it's Saturday at 12 o'clock. And that is the show when we break it up. We'll do it Saturdays at 12 o'clock. Saturdays at 12 o'clock. Now, that's just when we break out and do our shows. And that's the bottom line, just to let the family members know. So, big ups to the family members in the building. Love to see y'all in the chat. Big ups. Let's go, says Kevin. Big ups to you, Kevin. Devin Frank, big ups to you, Devin. I see you, Dada. My dog Dada in the building. Drew Goddamn Breeze in the building. He says, who that? Enter Taysom Hill. That's right. They love Taysom. Torrey Shepard Sr., who that to your family, says, who that? Big Q in the fam. Been waiting since last night. I know family bad weather and stuff, but hey, we still here. We in the building. We are in the building. Big ups to you. Big ups to the family members. Revolt Control. My dog Revolt out in ATL. Big ups to you. Dallas Allen. Big ups to you, Dallas. He says it's been a good week this far. Hope everybody is the same. And the rest of the family. Good to see y'all in the chat. Verlin. My dog Verlin joining as more family members will start to join in. Please hit the like button, family. Please hit the like button upon entering the live stream. Please hit the like button upon entering the live stream. Big ups to all the family members in the building. Once again, big ups to them. Now, of course, this is the middle of the week show, so I like to break it down, family. And of course, this episode, just Saints news and notes. An update on the church email scandal that occurred. Of course, to say Saints lose another assistant coach. Used to play for the Saints. We'll kind of go over that article as well. And plus this show, middle of the week show, is basically I wanted to open up the phone lines, a Q&A section with the family members to be able to ask questions about whatever topics, subjects that come to mind dealing with the Black and Gold Nation. You can feel free. This will be that show. Now, of course, we started off at 7. And it'll be maybe a 2.5 hour show that we do based upon the feedback from the family members. But, you know, most of our shows during the week are not long. They're usually an hour and a half to 2.5 hours or perhaps something like that. Lori, good to see you, Lori. Lori in the building as well. Good to see you, Lori. It's been a minute. Big ups to you. Who that to you? But, of course, family, like I said, we're going to go over some news and notes for this particular show with the Sports Coma. Please hit the like button, family members, chiming in the stream. Most interesting to deal with, family, is that, you know, we put out a Q&A, just basically a poll dealing with the quarterback situation. Of course, I was able, like I showed the last show we did, we broke out the polls and showed the results of the polls dealing with Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara, and of course the results from the previous polls, the TSC questions of the day, pretty much. One of which was, should the Saints resign first ballot Hall of Famer QB Drew Brees for a transition year? Over 70 people voted on the poll. 61% of the people said no, let him retire and start with somebody else. And only 39% of that same poll voted yes, we need him. 61% voted no, let him retire and start with somebody else. That's dealing with Drew Brees. And then, of course, the question, should the Saints resign three-time Pro Bowl multi-purpose running back Alvin Kamara, who's going to command top dollar? Over 80 people, I think it was about 80 people and more, they started to chime in, voted on the question. Now, the two options was yes, he deserves the big money, or no, use Murray and or find a cheaper back. 58% of those people said no, we don't need him, don't sign him, use Murray and or find a cheaper back. So very telling stats in both polls, especially the Drew Brees poll. 61% versus 39% of the people said no, let him retire and start with somebody else. And then 58% versus 42% on the Kamara question, which is no, use Murray or find a cheaper back. And of course, the new TSC question today that was placed not too long ago and is still voted upon is which of these QBs would you draft if available for the Saints? And of course, the first option is Jordan Love from Utah State, Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma, Jake Fromm from Georgia, Jacob Eason from Washington, and Anthony Gordon from Washington State. Now, this poll right now have a resounding amount of people. 67% of this current poll, 60% of this current poll has Jalen Hurts, and then 27% has Jordan Love, 7% of Jacob Easton out of Washington, no votes for Jake Fromm or Anthony Gordon. 67% of the Great Saints Think Tank members, the Sports Coma, and the diehard Black and Gold family members are voting right now in the poll. It's in the community section. Please feel free to get your vote on there and go from there, because the reality is a resounding amount of people, 67% of the people on the poll, this is a Sports Coma family members voting here now, are yelling for Jalen Hurts, and Jordan Love is only getting 27%. That is absolutely phenomenal. Jalen Hurts is blowing away the poll. 67%. Get your vote on, family. Go to the community section of the Sports Coma page, the PRO Media Network page, and you'll see it there, and get your vote on, because Jalen Hurts is killing it. He's killing it, man, in the poll right now. 67%. Man, it goes to show you, man, what people really see out there, man. I'm telling you. Big ups to the family members in the building, chiming in. Drew goddamn Brees. Feel like it's my fault that we have the anti-Drew Brees think tank. I don't think we anti-Drew Brees think tank. My preference is, to be honest with you, I'm on record for saying that I want Drew to come back, but give him a running game. That's my stand. That's why I stand on it. And people and all the family members know my stance is that I do think Drew can help, but balanced offense. Give him a running attack and also give him another wide receiver, add some more depth in the offensive line, and utilize the run like the lion one. This is what I called him years ago, and it seemed like I got to bring it back, like he said that he would do when he signed Latavius Murray and brought Drew Brees back for this year that just passed. I know that sounds a bit confusing, but follow me on that. The reality is we're supposed to use a running game to help Drew, and I think if you keep Drew upright, allow him to have more weapons. Imagine the Saints had the same offense that they had 8 years ago, where Drew Brees was known to cycle the ball around. Remember the year when Drew Brees had 4 wide receivers that had at least 40 catches in one season? That was phenomenal. That's because he was cycling the ball around, going through progressions and finding the open man. This situation with a guy like Mike Thomas, who's splendid, awesome, would have never had as many receptions had the Saints had a balanced attack. He might have had 100 catches on the year. that would have been a good year for him. But you have to be able to cycle the ball around to other weapons. So the Saints have woefully, over the last several seasons, have dramatically reduced the overall impact of their offense just became focused on just certain players, and that is a crying shame. We know Mike Thomas was phenomenal. We know Alvin Kamara was phenomenal. We know Drew is very strong, but the reality at the end of the day is it takes a complete team to win. And that's why the Saints continually losing these playoff games and matchups, because even though they might be a better team, they're losing to teams that are playing better together than they are, as opposed to them just using the great players of their team to try to get over. It worked during the regular season, but when the playoffs come, you see how they just keep getting defeated with that. You have to play and win as a team. And I think he's losing that focus. Needs to get back to what made the Saints offense great a long time ago and for many years, and that's cycling the ball around and getting talent, upgrading the wide receiver room, stuff like that. So wouldn't say this is the anti-Drew Brees. I think people have seen. Remember, Drew Brees did a lot of this stuff to himself. The way he played in the Minnesota game left a bad taste in a lot of black and gold family members' mouth, and people keep making a mistake of blaming the fan base for not wanting him here, because they're looking at his playoff performance and they're thinking that it's time to move on after a horrible playoff performance like that. I keep telling people, it is not the fan base's fault for feeling that way. And I had Drew Brees had 3 touchdowns in that game and had 300 plus yards in that game. And the Saints barely lost the game by a field goal. They would not feel the same way about Drew Brees. They would not. But it was the performance. It was such an ugly performance that it ultimately tainted a lot of people's perceptions of Drew in terms of him being competent in terms of physically to lead this team into the future. He can't do it by himself. He needs help. Big ups to the family members chiming in the chat. Big ups to the family members chiming in the chat. Please hit the like button. Dallas Anderson, take your shoes off at the door and hit the like buttons on the way in. Thank you, Dallas. Appreciate you. Shedrick, who that to you? Shedrick, big ups to my dog Shedrick in the building. Drew goddamn Breeze and the rest of the family. Cheryl, who that for life? What up, Cheryl? Big ups to your family. Paul, who that to you? Paul, I see you. It's real. It's real. Lance Kelly, who that to you? Says Teddy Bridgewater isn't the answer. It doesn't matter anyway, Lance, because I don't think Teddy will come back. And of course, we're looking at people that's going to probably outbid Teddy on the open market. He's on the open market now. So, I mean, he's going to command a good dollar. $60 million is a conservative estimate. We're looking at him probably getting anywhere between $60 and $80 million, because he will have several teams bidding for him. Chicago, Denver, Miami, Tampa. You can look at some of these teams actually competing for his services, and other teams who you might not see enter the fray as well. Jacksonville doesn't exactly have it solved at the QB position either. So, it's like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how things end. Devin says, nah, Drew, just the true time to move on. Dallas says, Love will be the only one on the board worth getting as far as the QB is concerned. It makes sense if we draft the QB. Also depends on Tua slipping and some Burrow magic. I don't think Joey Burrow's not going anywhere. There's several reports that came out over the last several days indicating that Andy Dalton he wants to be traded. So if Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals or Bungles, they said, okay, we'll find a suitor. So that's letting you know, if they trade Andy Dalton, then Joe Burrow is going to be the pick. They're not going to surrender that pick. It just makes too much sense for the Cincinnati franchise, who's going to get an Ohio kid who's one of the hottest quarterbacks in the history of college football. 60 touchdowns and breaking all kind of records, blowing away the Heisman, blowing away all the QB trophies or whatnot. This kid is going to walk into a Cincinnati situation, bottom line. Now, they will try to bring A.J. Green back, and they got Joe Mixon there. They're going to try to get some wide receiver help with him. I think Ross, the young kid, is up there. He was hurt. He's the deep threat. So they have some interesting pieces, but this is the Great Saints think tank, not the Cincinnati Bungles think tank or whatever you want to call it. Just let them figure it out. But I'm just happy that he ain't gonna be in the NFC. That's all I'm concerned about. Let's keep it moving here. Kevin says agree, especially not for 20 mil. Lance Kelly says Taysom isn't the answer either. Drew Goddamn Brees says Saints Nation sees Jalen Hurt as a younger Taysom Hill. Very similar characteristics between the two, although I say I watched the film on him. I've been watching Jalen Hurts. remember, I'm an LSU man. For the last several seasons, we've faced a difficult Jalen Hurts in Alabama and watched him literally run away from supreme athletes that we have. And then people criticizing him, saying that he wasn't a traditional quarterback, that he would have to move. He can't throw the ball as a passer, despite the fact the man was putting up 300-400-yard passing games for Alabama. So he challenged himself, went to Oklahoma, threw for over 3,000 yards, over almost 30 touchdowns, single digits on interceptions, ran for 13 touchdowns with his legs alone, almost 1,000 yards rushing with his legs alone. I mean, the guy did some tremendous stuff at some high caliber programs. So he does have a lot of similar characteristics, although I believe Taysom Hill is a more tougher linebacker in terms of lowering the shoulder and running over people. There's very few people that can do what Taysom Hill do. I don't think Jalen Hurts, that's his game. He don't need to do it. He can shake you out your shoes and run around you. So, I mean, it's reality. But that's just my thought on it. Let's keep it moving, family. A lot of family members in the chat. Please hit the like button, family. Chiming in. Big ups to all my beautiful black and gold family. Jamal says, we said Bridgewater was trash until he proved he can be a starter. I mean, he had to take a while to kind of get his stuff together. In terms of going through his progressions and doing the things that he do. So, I mean, ultimately he did it, but he still struggled a bit, if you notice. He still had trouble with his progressions over that span of time. And I just think that's something that you need to work on during the offseason full time. But he showed potential, and the man was undefeated, and the team responded while he was there. That's all I can say about it. I mean, everything else is pretty much guessing in the win, right? Chris Moorhead, big ups to you. Chris, I see you said next year Peyton will be able to become complacent. This will be the best Saints team we've seen in a while. Thank you, Chris. Tyra says, she had a teeth pulled and had bone graft and implants done. Wow. Wearing a temp, getting permanent 5 months. Damn, Tyra. Big ups to Tyra, man. Let's say prayers and blessings to Tyra to heal up after. Boy, that sounds real painful, Tyra. That sounds real painful, baby. That we praying for you and for a fast healing. Let's just say that much. Tramal says Sean Payton bought everything on himself by lying to Teddy B. That's exactly what happened. He told Teddy Bridgewater that he was going to be the heir apparent. That's why Teddy Bridgewater signed that contract to come back to New Orleans for one more year. Remember we did the video, the family members put together, a couple of Sports Coma family members here put the vid together and found the, like I say, vocal truth with visual truth. It's hard to dispute that, and it's not and that's what it was. And you guys seen it for yourself with your own eyes that they basically was saying to Teddy Bridgewater that, remember Dolphins offered him a 2-year deal, but they were saying that he was heir apparent to Drew Brees. Taysom Hill was pretty much a developmental prospect at that time. Then all of this stuff started happening. So it's just, can you believe Sean Payton was the idea of the video? It put out the idea. Can he be trusted with his conversations or statements about the franchise QB? The only QB that he's ever known and had has been Drew Brees. So of course he's going into the next 5 years of his career here in New Orleans, and he will have to establish another 4 or 5 years without Drew Brees. And that is the really underlying question that people not really paying attention to. All he's ever had was Drew Brees. And then Drew wasn't hurt for a long duration, so they had all that time together. Well, he was hurt, but not hurt enough to not miss games until last year when he missed the game because he could not grip the ball. Remember, he actually tried to come back in that Rams game, but he could not grip the ball. Had he been able to grip the ball, he would have played this entire season. I'm just keeping it real with you. But Sean Payton has to be able to find another quarterback that can do that. And he doesn't. I told you, he doesn't see Taysom Hill despite all these things about him being Steve Young. Big ups to the family. Dada says, I hope you feel better. Javier, who that to you, Javier? Can care less if Breeze goes these last 3 years. We should have been in a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl. Didn't happen. Stop holding everyone hostage. If you want to play or not. That's true. Kind of, yeah, he got to make up his mind. But actually, kind of, does he deserve the right to do that after what he's done? He does deserve the right to kind of sit there and say, well, let me kind of play. Let me talk it over with the wife and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, the longer the waiting period, the closer he is to getting out the door. It shouldn't take you this long to decide whether or not you want to play football and basically command the Saints to pay him over $30 million for one season. You know what I'm saying? Not even a year, season. So we'll see how it goes. But big ups to the family in the chat. Kevin Conley, who that for you? Kevin, I see you in the building. Jamal saying Saints needs one of these QBs in the draft. Paul, big ups to you, Paul. Paul says, hey, Q, how you feel about Del Pitt and Queen in the Saints jersey? I love either one of them. Del Pitt to push Marcus Williams up out of here, and Pat Queen to be working right next to Demario Davis. Absolutely love either one of those dudes. I just hope the Saints, that's what I'm saying, the Saints really need to kind of get more picks in this draft. I would be upset if the Saints were able to acquire 2 or 3 more picks to add to this draft, and they can really address some serious issues on the team in one draft, for real. Neville, big ups to you, Neville. I see your family. Big ups to you. Good to see you. Dallas says, did they did it to themselves playing with Drew all these years and not develop a QB? Remember, they tried. They got to do Grayson. Remember Grayson, whatever his face is. They brought him down here. They also had Chase Daniels. Remember, Chase Daniels was actually supposed to be the apparent understudy for him, and he was really a good one, but the Saints would not pay what everybody else wanted. And for several seasons, remember, Chase Daniels was the highest paid backup in the NFL, so the Saints didn't want to match that money, but they would fiddle around with developmental quarterbacks. JT Barrett was a guy they go in and out of. They're not really that crazy about him. They keep cutting them. They cut him 20-something times or something like that. Then you had, of course, the other quarterback they got from Green Bay before Taysom Hill, who they really liked, but the kid, they just couldn't keep him, and all kind of stuff. The Saints have had some difficulties making or keeping quarterbacks, and that's a part. You think about it, Drew's 41. The Saints should have really been looking at replacing Drew really in the 35, 36 range, or having an available backup guy there, to take over. And the reality is the Saints never, like with Green Bay, I make the comparison with Green Bay because I think it's a fair comparison. You had Brett Favre as the first ballot Hall of Famer they're playing, and then one year they picked Aaron Rodgers, who came late in the draft. I think that was the Saints should have found a quarterback. They've had several seasons to find some really good quarterbacks that have come out, even up to a season ago or a couple of years ago when they had Davenport, when he traded up in the first round and was sitting there ready to take Lamar Jackson, but then chose Davenport. Now, I ain't taking no slight. I'm not talking bad about Davenport. I like the kid a lot. But listen, you can always find a really good pass rusher versus a guy. Lamar Jackson is basically just terraforming the NFL. I mean, what he did last year was absolutely phenomenal. He could have been that guy. Could have been your quarterback. Really that easy. The Saints moved up and he was sitting there and they chose somebody else. So they've had several opportunities to find quarterbacks that fall to them in the draft, but they didn't pull the trigger. We'll see. We'll talk about that another day. Big ups to the family. Boss Hog says Bridgewater is not it. He is a second-tier QB, a long drop-off from Drew Brees. Pretty much everybody is. If you think about it, Boss Hog, Drew is on a whole nother level than most quarterbacks. At least, out of 100% of the quarterbacks in the league, who's really better than him? Like 5% of these quarterbacks that's playing, and everybody else is below him. So I agree with you on that. Drew is a tough order to live up to. He really is. So that's that. I have to get with you on that. I agree with you. Tramal says Breeze deserves to take this pay cut or retire. Chris Moorhead says we can't afford Breeze without a discount. If we want to win, remember he does not take pay cuts. Paul said, hey, Q, can the Saints trade Alvin Kamara for more picks in 2020? They most certainly can. They have to make up their mind on whether or not he fits in their plans, and perhaps move him in the draft or for a draft, a couple of picks and maybe personnel. Maybe we can do that to kind of build the picks, because you can get a first round pick, a second round pick for, and maybe a fifth round pick for Alvin Kamara, or maybe a player or what have you. You can, if you're not going to pay him, because remember, he's going to command double digits in terms of salary per annual. I'm just keeping it real with you. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's what's up. Tyvon Smith, who that to you, Tyvon? I see you in the chat. Paul says, answer that one for you. Tramal Kamara's getting traded, maybe a good idea. It is if you ain't gonna sign him. Don't let him walk out the door. All right, family. 985G, I see you, baby. Devin says Murray should be well rested for this year. He didn't do too much last year, right, fam? So, I mean, it's very interesting. But anyway, family, I thank all the beautiful Black and Gold family members for chiming in the chat. Please hit the like button upon entering the chat as we go away. I just wanted to acknowledge, you know how I do. I got to acknowledge all the family members in the building. Big ups to all y'all in the building as well. In this episode of Sports Coma, live number 87, we talking Saints talk, free agent moves like we just was talking about, church email scandal update, plus we're going to have Q&A and live call-in. So, of course, we're going to go till maybe around 10 o'clock-ish, 9:30, 10 o'clock. Go open up the phone lines after I cover some of the news there, and then we're going to go over and talk about it. Tyra says, I agree with everything you said, Q. Facts. Thank you, Tyra. Appreciate you, baby. Tramal says Mickey Mouse Loomis is a mouse being scared to tell Breeze no. Never told him no, didn't have to. The Saints know Drew has all the leverage. You don't want to piss him off right now. You're holding your season in his hand. But the reality at the end of the day is this is a good time for the Saints to kind of, if Drew retires, you have different options that they can go. You know, we have different options that you can go with. Really a lot of different options that you can go with. You know, in free agency, you got veteran quarterbacks that you can go after. There's the draft that's very favorable in terms of quarterbacks. There's also the Taysom Hill. Is he the answer there? You know, so I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to stick around in the Saint uniform. Just be honest with you. Boss Hog says Sean Payton is trying to be a game manager and not adjusting. That's true. I like that, Boss Hog. Boss Hog also says we lost these games because of coaching. You got to put it on the coach first. He's the head of the team. That's true. When he witnesses his quarterback struggling, you got to make an adjustment. Run the ball more. Do something different. Tavon Smith says, is Alvin Kamara traded? He is not traded. He's still a Saint. But the reason why people is talking about trading him is because the conversation is he has 1 year left on his contract. And perhaps if you decide now, if you're not going to pay him, you might as well trade him. But the Saints don't have to trade him now if they want draft picks because they don't have a second rounder or seventh rounder in this draft. Perhaps if you know you're not going to have him, or you don't have to trade him right away, you can wait into the season before the trade deadline to see if you can move him there. You know, you could keep him and then trade him later on in the season, but you will lose, building your team for the future in terms of having the draft. So there's several different ways they can handle this, but they most certainly got to clear money from the cap. Several players like Teron Armstead, who's making all this annual money, that has to be cleared away, and perhaps the Saints need to at least clear 10 to 12, 13, $14 million by releasing several players. So we're going to see how that plays out. Kevin Conley, who that to you? Kevin says, look, we about to run this thing back with the same crew minus Teddy, Craig, Rogers, Pete, and AJ Klein. Okay, fam, appreciate that, Kevin. Iceman T says, as a fan base, do you think we need to lower our expectations so that we don't get hurt so bad when we lose? I feel like this team hasn't lived up to expectations. You agree? You're right on both accounts. I don't know about lowering expectations. I would say keeping your expectations real and we have to tamper our expectations in terms of regular season. Being happy because we have a 13-3 record is good. But at the end of the day, keeping in the back of our minds, understand that the Saints haven't been a very good team the last several seasons in the playoffs. And this is a playoff level. This is a Super Bowl level team. So, of course, they have not lived up to expectations. It's very true. But that's the reality. Temper the expectations. In terms of seeing how they handle the QB situation, because it's really coaching, like Boss Hog say. I agree with that. If Sean Payton runs more of a balanced system, having a running game there before the quarterback, becoming more of a running team, and then working a pass off the run, controlling the clock, thereby helping the defense rest, and all these other things comes along quite naturally in the flow of the game. But if you got a guy that's pass happy and want to hang most of the offense on a 40-year-old quarterback, you're lucky you got 13 wins the last couple seasons. It's a tough game. And for a man playing in his 40s to be able to still make the Pro Bowl like Drew Brees and Brady do, that's just out of worldly, to be honest with you. That just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You're playing with guys half his age, and he's still better than these guys, and it's just crazy, All right. Kevin says karma deal will be done. Kamara deal will be done in September. Charles Mayfield, who that to you, is still Breeze, still our best option if we get a decent price on them. There's a few coming in the draft, but I just don't see us getting one. I just want the best for us. Thank you, Charles. Tramal says, I'm not hyping up Sean no more. Paul says, hey, Q, how you feel about the QB Neil in 6'6", height and his good arm? I think I know who you're talking about. I was looking at that guy up, his statistics. His numbers are not all that good. He got a strong arm. He can throw the ball. He's big. I don't know too much about him. I've seen him once or twice. I need to probably watch some more film on him, Paul. I've seen him scantly. You know what I'm saying? I don't know enough about him to kind of fill that in. So give me a little time to look him up and ask me that question, on the Saturday show. That'll give me enough time to kind of scout that guy. Boss Hall says, I'm all for Breeze taking less money, but Breeze still has game left in him, and he is the LeBron James of football right now. Really? Breeze is the LeBron James of football right now? I don't know. Some people will say Lamar Jackson is. Some people say Patrick Mahomes is. But Drew Brees is playing at a higher level during the regular season. He got to bring that into the playoffs, man. You got to bring that in the playoffs. Okay, I don't believe the same respect for Peyton as I once had. He isn't no genius. No, he's not a genius. I think people kind of giving him a little too much credit. He's a very intelligent coach, but he doesn't have the discipline to stay balanced. And that is a major problem. If you're an undisciplined coach, you're going to fall short every time. It takes a lot of discipline to stay on code. It really do. And Sean Payton woefully falls off in games where he needs to. The loss against the 49ers, that was on him. The loss against the Vikings was on him. He has to stay disciplined, and that's something that he don't even acknowledge. He don't even use the word discipline in applying to himself, and that's troubling because if he doesn't see it that way, this is going to keep hamstringing him for years. So really interesting. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. Kevin Conner says, Q, why do New Orleans Saints insist on allowing the referee to dictate the outcome in our playoff game? Because the balance attack, playing and keeping the referee out of the game, is like what some of these teams do when you just attack the team and you score and then you start running the ball and controlling the clock. The referees can't stop, they can impact the game when it's close. But when you blow a team out and you get on top of them, it's hard for them to help the other team get back in the game because you see it happen all the time. Look in the playoff series with the 49ers, how they would handle Minnesota and what happened with the Green Bay game. They just jumped on them and just kept going. And even though the referees wanted to help, they couldn't help, without being obvious. So, when they're close, that's when they go to work. And Sean Payton keep having these games where he's calling these weird, ridiculous callings, the doing the end around on 3rd and 1s. That's not a genius. That's why I'm saying when people talk to me about it, I get, I mention the game plans and the plays that he called, which expresses me expressing to you why I say the man's not a genius. Because of these calls that he do. Genius people wouldn't do these foolish calls. Like the reverse on a 3rd and 1, where the defense that's fast sideline to sideline was a recipe for disaster. And of course, it's just, it goes on and on. I don't want to get into a spiel about it. Who that to you, Will Musgrave, book up to your family. I see you in the chat as well. Tramal says, I hope Mark Williams get demoted to backup and PJ card not working to get in the Saints facility. Boss Hawk says, I'm saying his age, the LeBron James comparing him 17 years, he can still run off. Okay, I got you, Boss Hawk. I understand. I got you. Okay. All right. I was thinking, you said LeBron James, you saying, the most dominant player, such and such. Like that's what pops up in my head anyway. Dada says Tyler Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, Brian Edwards, Jalen Rager, Big Q. I would love to have one of these wide receivers in the Saints. Just my 2 cents. Those are fantastic wide receivers, especially Jalen Reagor. That and Brandy Ayuk is special. Throw Devin Duvernay in there too. That's another special. You can't miss with any one of those dudes. There is like a dozen or so special wide receivers. That's why I say the Saints must get more picks. They must get more picks to address the needs heading to the free agent period. Anyway, family, I think I got through most of the questions, if not all of the questions. Tough choices, said Kevin. That's true as we get through. But now let me get into some of the news, family. I always got to talk to the family members first before I start chiming in the news. But what I want to start off by talking with the family members about is, of course, we're going to start with the fact that the Saints in this one, Man, let me just take a deep breath on this, because the first thing I'm going to kind of go over with the family members is the, I guess you could say, the ridiculousness going on with the email scandals and whatnot. Of course, Gail Benson released a statement earlier this week in which I wanted to respond and put out a show right away, but something told me I should just hold on to it and come back to it. And she was quoted as saying, speculation of team involvement in the church scandals sickens her. And you got to remember, even though these people are extremely wealthy, they're not foolish by any stretch of the imagination, but they're also not perfect. And that means pretty much, is that you have to watch the relationships that you have, because if the accusations, and they are pretty much going at it, that it sickens her. Yes, it sickens her. It sickens me. It sickens everybody that understand that's some wrong shit. Pardon my French. But at the end of the day, you have to watch the relationships you have with people. And as a team, as the Saints, and has as much to lose as they have to be extra judicious and even researching. They have research. They got scout people that go and investigate the teams. They got people that go ask players that want to be on the team. They go ask their college coaches. You go all the way back to college and biddy ball to investigate players. So you can't investigate the relationships you have with these church organizations. Now, let me get into it, man. Judge orders, this is from ESPN, who covered it, several news media outlets. I just chose this one. Judge orders open hearing on Saints emails with Archdiocese of New Orleans. This is Associated Press article, and it says news outlets and the public will be able to attend a hearing next week on the confidentiality of emails between the Roman Catholic officials and the NFL Saints concerning the clergy sex abuse scandals. Now, a state judge in New Orleans ruled Thursday that, of course, we know about the February the 20th hearing, which will be open, although she cautioned attorneys that they must not disclose the contents of the emails at that hearing. As the Associated Press reported last month, victims' lawyers allege that hundreds, not dozens, but hundreds of Saints emails show team executives did behind-the-scenes public relations damage control amid the Archdiocese New Orleans clergy abuse crisis. Now, we covered much of this. I did a video on this, probably do another one. The team has gone to court to keep the emails from being made public, saying court rules would ordinarily keep them under seal, and that the plaintiff's lawyers want them released for publicity purposes. Listen, I'm gonna hold my opinion and just go through the rest of it. A court-appointed special master is to determine whether they may be released and will preside over the next week's hearings. Now, the AP, the Associated Press, has been allowed to intervene in an effort to get the emails released, and lawyers for the news cooperative are being allowed to participate in arguments for the release of the emails until the judge ruled Thursday. The February the 20th hearing before the special masters was closed to the public. The owners of the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, WVUE TV, WWL TV, WDSU TV filed a motion for access to the hearing. A lawyer for the local news outlet said that the AP should not be the only media outlet present at the hearing. All the public, now this is a quote from Judge Ellen Hazur. She said that, quote, all the public has a right to it, end quote, and ruling from the bench after a brief hearing. Lawyers for the Saints and Archdiocese of New Orleans argued that special master hearings are routinely closed, but Hazur said nothing in order appointing a special master's required a closing hearing. So notice the Saints on a perpetual and consistent basis are doing two schizophrenic things. Number one, they're claiming innocence in public to you, and number two, the lawyers are working behind the scene to keep whatever in those emails from getting to your ass, and your ass meaning the public, to find out. So how do you be that schizophrenic and that diverse in action to say that you are innocent, then are working tooth and nail to stop the release of the emails? That don't make any sense. So when it just shows a guilty move, because if you are as innocent as you claim to be, then why are you blocking the emails? Because like I've said before, and I'll say it again, those emails contain information of names, and the Saints are how they were able to manipulate who goes on the list. And the question is, why would they try to manipulate names on the list? And it's very simple, is to protect whoever's powerful there. They're powerful people that are involved in this that don't want light shined on them. because it would destroy the image and possibly knock them out of stuff. So that's why this is done. That's why this is being done, to block. It's not about trying to create a pub. Who cares if it shows you innocent as an innocent, allow them to be released and sit back and say, I told y'all we ain't do nothing. Now let's close this and go on about our business. So it's two schizophrenic actions occurring here. And then, of course, the Saints who devotedly Catholic, Gail Benson is close friends. Now, she says she's devoutly Catholic. Owner Gail Benson is close. Now, I remember there's a article that the Saints have spent over $60 million, have spent or donated, whatever you want to call it, to the Catholic Church. Over $60 million that they've given to the Catholic Church. So that's a major investment in the Catholic Church. You know, so you've given that amount of money to them. And now you were protecting them from, putting certain names on the list and excluding other names of the list, like the attorneys. They seem to have a case. The victims are showing you, saying, see, I'm telling you, they got something to hide. You moving like a person that has something to hide. Okay, Benson said in a news release Monday that the NFL team played no role in determining which priest would be named in the list of credibly accused clergy published by the Archdiocese. Attorneys for about 24 men suing the church and allege in court findings that the confidential emails show executives joined in the church's quote pattern and practice of concealing crimes, end quote. The attorneys contend that included taking an active role in helping to shape the Archdiocese list of 57 credibly accused clergy. A roster the AP analysis found was undercounted by at least 20 names, so it was actually more than that. It was actually 77 names that should have been there, but 20 of them was withheld. So why would you hold the 20 names? Who helped hold the 20 names? Why would the Saints put their reputation on the line to protect 20 of these clowns? Why? Reality of the day is because whoever those 20 men is, they have very powerful ties in the church, and whoever the people that help them on the Saints are they said executives. So those are at the high level. We talking Greg Bensel was one of the ones that were mentioned in one of these reports, allegedly. So we won't know until these emails come to fruition, which the hearing is set to start on February the 20th. And guess what? The Associated Press wanted, and the Saints should have this. I mean, the Saints should release these emails and clear their name. So it's very interesting, to say the least. And of course, I've covered this story before, and I mean, this is systemic. This is the systemic problem in our country, across the world. And I'm going to stop talking football for just a second, and then I'm going to get back into football, because people have to understand, that this is a worldwide problem, and that these people sit at a high level. There are some, like the garbage time ones, that don't have any power. They get routed all the time, but there are active cliques and groups of these type of people that work. If it wasn't, they would not be able to use the church as a platform to be able to reach, to get to these men or boys or whatever. These are powerful people that run groups, and they're tied to the law. They're cliques of these people that sit in certain groups, and that's how they protect each other. And they move them. I call it the clergy relocation assistance program, because they'll get up a certain amount of complaints and they'll ship them from one city to a city, one region to a region, and ultimately, when they get too many complaints, they'll ship them back to Europe, or where it goes back to Italy, where the Vatican is. And the Vatican is its own country over there, and you can't just go over there and arrest them. And they have law enforcement officers that attempted to do that before. When most of them would leave, they'll go there, and you cannot gain access to the Vatican without permission from the Pope. They operate like its own country over there. If you don't believe me, look it up. The reality of the day is that this platform, the church platform, and other platforms are being used to hide and protect these people. And most of them are very powerful. That's what's going on right now. The Saints have an issue, and they're attempting in a weird relationship with these people. If they didn't know what they were doing, they would not be trying to protect them now while doing two schizophrenic things, claiming and blurting out innocence, but yet behind the scenes working to stop the obvious piece of evidence that would clear them in the court. Very, very troublesome. Could you imagine what this will do after February the 20th to the perception of the team? Could you imagine? We're not just talking about something silly like draft picks or punishment. We're talking about the lives of people here, for God's sakes. You know, and if you have this type of issue in your family, please destroy it. Please route it out. Please put these people in jail where they belong. You know, and we have to protect our children. We have to protect our children. It is a war out here, and we have to protect our children. You have to do it. And you got brave people saying that this happened to them. And instead of people protecting them, the Saints standing on the side of the ones creating a wrongdoing. In the archdiocese and the Saints saying no wrongdoing, while both of them working hand to fist to stop the truth from getting out. But you cannot stop the truth. You should know better than that. If you're in the church, you should always know that. But this is how they play ball. We have to monitor this. We have to monitor this. But anyway, that's the story. Who that to you, Dominic? I see your family. I'll kind of bring my countenance down for a second, man, talking about that, because that's extremely disturbing to me. But it exists. It exists like slavery still exists today. A lot of people don't understand that it's still going on over there in parts of the world, in the poor third world nations of the world. It still exists, especially in Africa. It still exists and going on with people being traded back and forth. There's still slave trades going on across the world. And I won't tell you that stuff. But this was kind of stuff we have to take that veil off your eyes and live in the truth. You know, and we have to step up. If good people must step up and stop bad people. We've been letting too much slide. I've been often saying that we let too much slide. We let too much go. But anyway, big ups to the family members chiming in. Elite Goods, good to see you in the building. Charles says Drew still the best. Not even a question if he thinks he can still play. Tyra says this is deep, y'all. Sean D, who that to you? And all the rest of the family members. Let's go on to the Tyra says people fans are going to drag for our team. All right, let's go to the next situation, family. We'll talk about something on a lighter side of things. Talk about the fact that the Saints are lost another defensive assistant. Now, Lee Torrance, if you remember Lee Torrance, he was a cornerback that played with the Saints. I remember Lee Torrance. He was a defensive back for the Saints back in the day, back in the G, but he accepted a job. He got hired by the New Orleans Saints, former defensive back and defensive back assistant. He was a defensive assistant. He was hired on by the Jets Tuesday afternoon. He was with the Saints as a franchise player back in 08 to 11. And then he was hired as a training camp coach intern in 2015. Then ultimately the next season he was actually hired as a coach. And then he was promoted to defensive assistant. Now, Torrance was in charge of the team's self-scout reports, compiling scouting reports, breaking down the Saints' opponents, organizing playbooks, assisting the coaching of teams' defensive backs. Now, let me just put this out here. This is basically Lee Torrance was in charge of the team's self-scout reports on themselves, which players need to do what they got to do. He would watch his own players, put self-scout reports together to give to the team. And then he would also compile scout reports of other people. And he would also break down Saints opponents and then organizing playbooks and assist the coaches of the team's defensive backs. What's interesting is that he played a part in formulating game plans to defeat other people's teams. San Francisco, Minnesota, I guarantee you Lee Torrance was the one that came out with the scouting report to say we need to run on this team. They're suspect on the defensive line, but you think Sean Payton read that scouting report? Obviously didn't. But also with the defensive backs, helping guys like P.J. Williams, helping guys like Marcus Williams, helping guys like Pat Robertson, helping the other cornerbacks, Justin Hardy's, develop as well. Now with the Jets, Torrance will work with Denard Wilson, the Jets passing game coordinator. Now the defensive backs coach, Torrance replaces Steve Jackson, who was the Jets' assistant defensive back coach before he accepted the Cincinnati's cornerback coach job. Now, Torrance coaching duty with the Saints was his first, and since he had came over from Marist, and he was in the league as a player from 05 to 12, and he was last on the active roster with the Saints before playing for New Orleans. He played for the Falcons and the Redskins. Now, he played 73 games over his 6-year career, compiling 134 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, and only 2 interceptions, 3 pass defense, primarily as a backup. He was never a starter or anything of that magnitude, just a career backup. And now both Terrence interceptions came with the Saints, including his 2011. He returned for 42 yards, and he's a second assistant coach to depart the Saints. Now, of course, the first one was former linebackers coach Mike Nolan, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. So the Saints have not yet announced replacements for either man Torrance or Nolan. So most interesting, with Lee Torrance going, I think the Saints will be able to upgrade his position as well. They'll find somebody competent enough to fill his position. But the linebackers coach is still something that they haven't done. Looking at candidates, I do like Jonathan Vilma. I wouldn't be upset if they looked at some experienced linebackers coaches to come in and kind of play, maybe a former defensive coach to come in and do like they did with Mike Nolan. That would be interesting as well, too. So just a little bit just to kind of drop on the family. But anyway, family, let's keep it moving. To the moving Torrance, Lee Torrance, I think his name is. What I said, Torrance Smalls? Did I say Torrance Smalls, family? I apologize if I said Torrance Smalls. Lee Torrance. I don't know what I got that from. But anyway. Anyway, let's keep it moving, family. Anyway, that's some of the thoughts of some of the things we're going to talk about. We mentioned some other news free agent moves as well, dealing with the Saints. I want to hear what you guys you got to say tonight. So in a second, we'll open up the live lines for some of the family members to chime in on their thoughts and talk about what they feel should happen with the team, thoughts on Taysom Hill, thoughts on Drew Brees, thoughts on the salary cap, thoughts on several very interesting and intriguing items dealing with the Saints. Saints have a very active offseason, both good and bad. A lot of change. A lot of change, uncertainty at the QB position. Taysom Hill wanting out. Teddy Bridgewater obviously gone. Drew Brees still contemplating retirement. The Saints email scandal that's going on, that's breaking around the same time. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on with the black and gold right now. That's kind of shaking up here. So it's interesting. Obviously, either way, the Saints need to start looking for another QB to time to let it go. So a lot of family members say the same thing over and over about Drew Brees. But anyway, I'm gonna open up to the family. I'm gonna open up the number so people can contact the Sports Coma and call in, get your name and get your information in there. Live call in number is 504-475-4482. It's 504-475-4482. 504-475-4482. 504-475-4482. 504-475-4482 is the live call-in number. You can call in, questions, concerns, comments. The live line is open for the next hour and a half. So it's open right now at 1. So we cover some news for about an hour, a little less than an hour. Now we're moving on to the live call-in Q&A section. Questions, concerns, comments dealing with the Saints. All the stuff that I just mentioned. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not exactly a boring offseason for the Saints. I mean, questions at quarterback, what to do with Alvin Kamara's contract, which players do we need signed back, what does our draft look like? Do we need some more draft picks? We only have like 5 picks, and we missing a second round pick, which could really be a starter that could be impactful. That second round pick could really be a starter for you. You can get a quarterback, a wide receiver with that second, then the third pick could be another. I mean, if you had that pick, that is like a future for the next 5 years. You can really address some stuff. So like I said, it's interesting. 504-475-4482. Questions, concerns, comments on what to do moving ahead with the black and gold, man. What do you guys think? Chime in. Live line is open for the call. So family, if you feel free, you can call in right now and talk to your boy here, Big Q at the Sports Coma. I got the live lines are open. Now, until the family members call, I'm taking a look at the poll, going back and flashing to the Sports Coma. Question of the day is which of these QBs would you draft if available for the Saints? Of course, we have Jordan Love up there, Jalen Hurts, Jake Fromm, Jacob Eason, Anthony Gordon, and the likes. Now, Jalen Hurts right now is clear just clear out there. He's 74% of the poll right now. The closest guy to him is Jordan Love with 21%, and then Jacob Eason with 5%. So 74% of the Sports Coma family members right now are picking Jalen Hurts. Now, of course, I picked Jalen Hurts. I know that so many people felt the same way about Jalen Hurts as I did. And it makes common sense to me, being that Sean Payton likes Taysom Hill a lot. You know, you're looking at Jalen Hurts, a guy that can do exactly the same things a guy like Taysom Hill does, maybe in more of a complete passer, in my opinion, than Taysom. Not because, I just think Taysom Hill's development as a quarterback in New Orleans was severely hampered. And I think Taysom understands that too. But it's like I talked about, the psychological advantage of playing a quarterback at wide receiver, running back, tight end, and special teams. It undermines those positions because he's stepping outside of what he does as a quarterback to play somebody else's position. Imagine the psychological disadvantage it plays to you with guys like Tre'Quan Smith, who thinking, damn, I ain't even good enough to be the guy who will back up quarterback. Seriously, think about it. Latavius Murray sees him running at running back, and you're like, damn, this goddamn backup quarterback is running the ball. Well, I'm supposed to be out there. Then again, you can say, well, screw it, man. I'm still getting my money. I ain't tripping. So it's weird, the psychological impact of having something like that going on. It's just, people don't think about it like that. But it's cracks in the arm, and I've been saying that for a while about Sean Payton, that he's getting really stubborn in his old age, and how he's tending to handle these issues and handle these things. It's focusing on certain skilled players in offense like Mike Thomas, Elvin Kamara, Jared Cook, and not focusing on getting other people involved to set up those guys to becoming more of an offense, just becoming player focused as opposed to team focused while saying we're a team, but not playing as such. That can be undermining. Somebody could look at you and say, he a goddamn liar. I come in here and say, by Sean Payton, just by looking and using his own words, what he said about Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is our parent, and there was nothing about Taysom Hill. Then all of a sudden, when Taysom gets popular with these packages, then he says, okay, hey, we don't have to pay Teddy Bridgewater the $20 million. We can use Taysom Hill, but they're going to cheap shot Taysom Hill. They're going to give him $2-3 million, going to let the market dictate him. And then they're going to say, okay, well, nobody's going to pay more than $2 or $3 million a season for Taysom Hill. That's the cheapest we could pay. We could pay $2 or $3 million and get Taysom Hill, back. We could just keep him. They do have him on a leash in terms of his being a restricted free agent. Of course, it's just absolutely just insane. At this point, if you're Sean Payton and you realize that you ask Drew to come back and he has an extended process of thinking. Let me think about it. Maybe that's an indication for you to go somewhere else. Because if you're begging him to come back, he'll come back, but it won't be out of his heart. It'll be out like, what he wants to do. The man really wants to be with his family. We need to respect his wishes and just move forward. Some people say, well, Drew need to make up his goddamn mind and stop hamstringing the team. No, the team's hamstringing itself. It should have a contingency plan for a while now in place, and they're not doing it correctly. Big ups to the family members in the building. Please hit the live chat, like button, Hit the live chat up for questions, concerns, and comments as well. Tyvon says Breeze should sign a 3-year contract with us. That'll kind of stretch out his money. Tramal and the rest of the family. Dada says if the Saints were smart, offer Breeze a 2-year deal and void the 2nd year. Most likely, Mickey Loomis likes to offer those 2 or 3 year deals, 4-year deals, and have phantom years, and that way he stretched the dead money out. He's good at doing that. Good night to you, Tyra. I see you. Thank you. Javier says either way, the Saints need to start looking for another QB. I read that Devin said they need to stop giving up draft capital every year. You gave up 2 first-round draft picks to move up to get Davenport. What the hell was that about? We needed a pass rusher opposite of Cam, but did you really need to jump up there and get one? If you look at the draft board, they had some pretty good pass rushers in that draft. I thought when they did it, I thought Lamar Jackson was the guy because you needed a quarterback. Hey, what did I know, right? Paul says Hurts has a way better arm then heal. Paul says, yeah, Q, Sean Payton duct tape and stuff is now falling apart. You can't do that, man. Big Dada says, Big Q in the fan. I don't believe shit Sean Payton says. His lies for no damn reason. I proved to you. I've showed you his words and actions. That's why I'm saying if Taysom Hill is smart as I think he is, that he has to see how Sean Payton handled the Teddy Bridgewater situation and have doubt in his mind. And besides, he's telling them that he's a quarterback, but he don't want to use him as a quarterback except to throw the deep ball when Drew can't throw it. That's not. And then you got to remember, he's getting into his 30s. He's getting into his 30s, which means, do he really want to take that abuse? Do he really want to Sean Payton running him into the special teams room? He blocking kicks, and that's really dangerous. Special teams, if you want to get somebody hurt, put them on special teams. It's a very hard position to play, and he has him running around out there. Wide receiver, he has him running around out there. Running back, he has him tight end. Wherever he needs, put Taysom there. Will not, and for cheap, $600,000 or something like that a season to do 4 or 5 men's work. So the Saints saving a lot of money that way by using him as a utility man, but he playing himself at the same time because the Saints don't really want to pay him that money. So that's why they're trying to keep him as a wide receiver, tight end. And I think he's trying to figure that out. See, that's the reality. That's the only reason why you use utility man, to be kind of honest with you, utility man like that, because there's no good pay scale for no guy like that. I'm keeping it real with you. The man did all that, and last year he made just over $1 million doing that. You know, and it's just amazing, man. Drew Brees cleaning up $20+ million a year. Taysom Hill taking hits, running around, special teams, him $600,000. And the Sean Payton, they slapping them happy, but they ain't compensating them though. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You're doing all those men work. You're creating rifts among your team, and that's not the way to do it. And that's why I'm saying I'm kind of upset with Sean Payton. You hear it when I do the broadcast. You hear my upsetness in my voice when dealing with Sean Payton, because I see it from a psychological edge too. I pay attention. I do stuff. My mind focus around the psychological, because I tend to humanize the people, even though I might not personally know some of those players, but I humanize them and go through in their heads about what they're seeing when they watch a Taysom Hill run around on the field. Of course, they're happy they're going to win the game, but truth be told, if you get specific, it's about production. How much of the production? You don't think Taysom, Tre'Quan Smith would have got a salary increase or boost had he caught 50 passes this season and caught 10 touchdowns? His salary would have looked dramatically different than what it looks now. That's what I'm saying. Money is tied to your actions, meaning how many balls you catch, how many touchdowns you catch, receptions, cut touchdowns, so on and so forth. How much of that do you actually play? And if you're not making it to the field, your money is being drastically reduced because you're not meeting your playing incentives in your contracts. Most contracts, if not all, are set up that way, except for the ones who have the power to demand guaranteed money simply for being there. Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, and the likes. Aaron Rodgers and the likes. Money Johnson, who that to you? Says Sean P is real political. LOL, facts. No doubt about it. He's a politician, man. That's why I said I be reading, going right through his crap. You know, a lot of people be believing it, but I know better. Kevin says I left all I had to say about the QB situation Q on Telegram. Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to get that information. Make sure you send that information to me again, bro, because I was playing around with Telegraph today, and we set up a group. I had somebody to post the link to it on the community section. So I'm gonna start kind of getting used to so many platforms that I participate with, you know. But anyway, family, 504-475-4482. The live line is open. This is more of a show in terms of this next round of hours. It's simply about call-ins, Q&A. So if you're interested in calling the show and you have questions concerning the comments, please hit up the chat. The live line is activated. Live line is activated. Live line is activated. You know why? And I'm gonna read some of the information from the chat to the family members. Let's see. Dada says, Sean, are you interested in AB? No, we're not. Then all of a sudden he appears in the building. Sean, like, oh yeah, he a bullshit artist, no doubt about it. Iceman said, I'm starting to see the light about Sean, man. This guy has an ego. Is either Taysom is the guy or he's not. He is not. Sean need to stop taking both sides and just bite the bullet. He don't want to bite the bullet. That's the problem. Now you see what I'm saying. He does not want to bite the bullet. Sean Payton does not want to bite the bullet. All he's ever had as a coach of the Saints was Drew Brees. It's become a drug to him. The Drew Brees drug, the Drew Brees syrup. That's pretty much what it is. And he's stuck on the Drew Brees syrup. He can't shake loose of the Drew Brees syrup. That's what's going on here. It's an addiction. And he has to be able to find another quarterback that can do some things that Drew, because Drew a lot of times have mastered that offense. And Drew is fantastic at doing it. He picked up Sean Payton's offense and did it away. Now, Sean Payton's going to have to do that with another quarterback. He got 4 years left on the contract. Can he find? You'll never find another Drew Brees, so don't say it. But the thing is, he'll have to become disciplined now and have a quarterback that he'll have to teach the position to while using a running game to help him. You got to give him a tight end. You got Cooks here for 1 more year. You're going to have to perhaps draft a tight end, and you're going to have to start building this team through the draft, smartly through free agency, and to keep them relevant at the same time. He does not want to come up off the Drew Brees pill. That's the bottom line. He don't want to face reality without Drew Brees. That's why he keeps talking about this, bring Drew Brees back for a transition year. The transition year isn't for Taysom Hill, it's for him. That's the truth. Did anybody ask Drew Brees? I mean, did anybody ask Sean Payton who's the transition year for? The transition year, and I'm going to say it again, the transition year isn't for Taysom Hill. It's for Sean Payton. It's for Sean Payton. The transition away from Drew Brees to another quarterback, because he's not prepared to do so. People keep thinking it's about Taysom Hill. It's not about Taysom Hill. It is not. It's not about Taysom Hill, because if it's really about Taysom Hill, he believed the stuff he would say, he would be playing Taysom Hill. But the reality is, it's a transition year for Sean Payton, not for Taysom Hill, because Taysom Hill is ready to go. You hear his rhetoric. You hear him on several interviews, whether it's Cowherd, Cowherd, or whether it's the PFF boys, or whether it's anybody. You heard all of the media, the Super Bowl, pre-Super Bowl media day rhetoric from Taysom Hill. He was on damn near every show, and they asked him the same damn questions. And what was his answer? Over and over again, the same stuff. So this is what it is, family. We got a call. What's up, fam? Thank you for calling the Sports Coma. Who I'm speaking with?
You talking to the Ice Man.
What up, Ice Man? How you doing, fam?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me pretty good?
I can hear you, my brother. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, okay. Yeah, man, I just want to chime in on the whole Sean Payton thing, man. I've said it once, say it again, man. This is bad. I'm sorry, folks. I mean, I feel like we going around the damn carousel, man. I mean, come on, man. First, I put it in the chat, man. Sean Payton need to bite the bullet, man. I don't know what this is about. I mean, is Taysom Hill the guy or is he not? I mean, you basically alienated Teddy Bridgewater. Because at first you said that he was the guy. He was going to back up Drew Brees. Obviously, I remember this. I didn't let that go. I have a good memory of what Sean Payton be saying. He said Teddy Bridgewater, was going to be the guy and take over the reins. Now you alienate that guy, and now you want to say that Taysom Hill is Steve Young, but you don't want to give him the reins or pay him as a quarterback. Well, why is that? Because Sean Payton was not prepared. And that's just a simple answer, folks. Sean Payton, for all his juicy fruit chewing and all that, he has not been prepared. And I wanted to ask you something, Q.
Yeah.
Because I posed the question in the comments earlier about our expectations so we don't get hurt as bad, if we lose in the playoffs and stuff. But I have another question that I want to pose to the Black and Gold family real quick.
Okay.
When is the breaking point for Sean Payton? Where is it? Because I need to know if we're all on the same level here. Are we on the same page? And is it going to come time for us to start this shit? You either going to get it done or you got to get by here, fam. I hate to say it. I know that, we haven't had as good coach as Sean Payton before because he, as far as knowledge, we haven't had a coach that brought in as much success as Sean. Like that's the reason why people don't want to, question him because we've never had success before him or Drew. So I feel like people, you know, or you know, a couple, you know, some people in the Black and Gold Nation, I feel like, you know, they want to question Sean because they're not used to having anything before he got here. So I don't know what he's going to do. I just feel like this thing has become one big mess. It's not really focused. It's not really tight and you know, calculated and precise movements going on in off season when you need to be, you know, retooling and revamping and coming up to get this team over the hump. And we still don't know who the quarterback is going to be on starting day. Because let's not forget, people, Drew Brees can retire. He can retire. He can say, like Q said earlier, I won a championship. You know, I have, you know, damn near all records. You know, I have one of the most beautiful underdog stories in this game. You know, I was never supposed to play again, or I had a small percentage chance of playing again. And, you know, I came back and I'm a first ballot Hall of Famer and all this stuff, put the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans on the map, legitimize the franchise and all that stuff. But at some point, we have to look at it for what it is, man. And that's just the bottom line, man. Where is Sean Payton taking this team? Because Drew Brees is going to be gone sooner or later. He's going to be gone sooner rather than later. And you summed it up perfect, Q. The transition is not for Taysom Hill. It's for Sean Payton to get his bearings because he can't stop drinking Brees Kool-Aid. What do you think about that, Q?
Man, bro, once again, Ice Man, bro, you on